What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. So today, I'm going to start off with an MLB Standings update. Let's get right into it. American League East, Toronto Blue Jays still in first place. In the American League East have been in first place since a little before the All-Star break. Come back down to earth a bit. We're struggling lately. Have been playing better. Obviously, you get the league's worst Colorado Rockies, and you had a stroke of great performance offensively. That last game went 20-1. Right, they are 68-48, which is good for the best mark in the entire American League. They're 4 up on Boston. Boston is 4 games up. They're playing really well, but they're 4 back. The Yankees have fallen 6.5 games back of the American League East. Pretty not buried, but sure-footed in third place in the American League East. You have Tampa, 57-59, kind of hanging in there, not necessarily in the division. They're out of the division, but in the wild card, trying to hang in there. And then Baltimore is in last place, of course, at 52-63. Of course, they sold off at the trade deadline. AL Central Detroit, they're originally sent to 6. They've been struggling for a while. They're getting back on the horse a little bit, but still a far cry from the way they were playing much earlier in the season. They're still at 66-50. They're 6 games up on Cleveland, who's playing some really good baseball. Cleveland pretty much holds steady for the most part at the trade deadline. The only piece they already moved, you trade Shane Bieber, who has been injured all season, coming off Tommy John, pending free agent to Toronto. Other than that, really didn't do a whole lot else. They had a lot of pieces, maybe controllable guys you maybe could have moved. Maybe you think about moving Jose Ramirez. I'm sure we get a King's ransom for him. Stephen Kwan was a guy who was discussed. Maybe could have gotten moved. But Colossi would have been in talks more if he didn't get suspended. But for the gambling. But they're playing good baseball right now. We swept the Mets in a 3-game set. So 59-55, they're hanging in there. They're right back there on the race. Kansas City, 57-58, 8.5 out of the division. They're hanging in there in the wild card race. I'll go into the wild card things in a minute. Well, look how far each team is back of the wild card, and I'll do that once I go through all the divisions. Minnesota 54-60. They saw pretty much everyone they could have, but Dylan did not trade Joe Ryan, surprisingly. Everyone else got moved. They traded a couple of controllable relievers in Griffin Jackson and Lewis Varland. You traded a bunch of guys. So I'm surprised Joe Ryan didn't go. I know they were close with Walsham. Deal doesn't end up working out, but they pretty much traded away everybody else. They even traded Carlos Correa. So they had a big sell-off at the trade line. And then the White Sox, 42-73, they suck. They already have more wins than they have last year. And we got about two months left in the year, but they're obviously not very good. ALS, Houston's at 64-51. Seattle, 63-53, are playing really good baseball. Only a game and a half out of that division. You have Texas at 16-56. They gotten really hot. Have gotten back into the race. Have cooled off as of late, but still right there. Only 4 out of the division. Angels 55-60. They're pretty much hanging by a thread in the wild card race. And the A's are 51-66. Nick Kurtz has had just a fantastic year. Probably American League Rookie of the Year, I'm sure, but other than that, they're obviously still a little bit away. I've been playing bad lately, but they are in last place. National League East, Phillies are at 65-49. They're in first place. Mets have been really showing 63-52. They need to start playing better baseball. They are not hitting well. Juan Soto is struggling. Francisco Lindor is struggling. They are really struggling to manufacture runs. They have that great bullpen now, but their rotation has not given them a lot of innings. I think the only pitcher has given them 6 innings. Like the last 2 months is David Peterson. Senga's not looked good since coming off of his injury. Shomanaya hasn't looked fantastic either. He's not giving you enough innings. Clay Holmes isn't the guy that can go deep into ball games. Montas has been really bad since coming off the IL in July. So they are really struggling. They're really struggling offensively. It's almost embarrassing at this point, and they're just not getting enough out of their starting rotation, which is now healthy and fully healthy. Should be better. Well, a lot of people are calling for the hitting coach Eric Chavez to be let go. I don't think it will be a bad idea. Maybe shake things up. At least you got to make some sort of change. and sort of change, shake up the line, maybe put Francisco Lindor back in the leadoff spot. Something you did last year that kind of sparked you. And I would call up one of your top starting pitching prospects in either Noel McLean or Brandon Sprout or both. You're just not getting enough innings out of your starting rotation because you're going to kill your bullpen before it even gets to the playoffs. So then you have Miami, who's been playing good baseball lately. They're 56 and 58. They've got themselves, they're not completely out of it. They're hardly in it, but they've given themselves a fighting chance. Obviously, you held on to Alcantara at the deadline, didn't do a complete sell like you thought they do. Atlanta is 48 and 66. They, of course, held firm at the deadline. They ain't have that much to sell. Chris Sale is hurt, so a lot of our guys are hurt. Ozuna's on a big deal. He's got some multiple field issues in the past. Have been tough to move, so he does not end up getting moved. This is still a really talented team, possibly next year. They were in the playoffs last year. Well, won a championship only 4 years ago. But they're cooked, and the Nationals are also cooked. Already fired the GM and the coach. 45 and 69. They right now are the second worst team in the National League and the third worst in all baseball besides Colorado and the White Sox. Next week, Central Brewers continue to roll. They've won 6 in a row, 9 in the last 10, 70 and 44. I think they have the best record in baseball since like June something. They are rolling. Mets got a tough series against them coming up, starting tonight. But Milwaukee is just rolling. Cubs are 4 games behind them, 6 and 48. They're also a really good team, but 4 games behind the Brewers right now. You have the Reds at 16-56. Fun fact: the Reds are the only team in the league to never be swept at once this year. So they've been kind of not great, but not good enough. But hanging in the wild card race, Cardinals kind of doing the same thing at exactly 500, 58 and 58. I thought that'd be a little worse, but they are as mediocre as it gets. They are exactly 500 through 118 games this year. And the Pirates suck. They are 50 and 66. They, of course, traded Brian Hayes at the deadline as well as David Bednar. The NLS Dodgers 6 and 49. They have not been the unstoppable force that we thought. The rotation is obviously very deep, but they haven't performed as well as we thought. Sasaki hasn't been as electric as we thought so far. Padres are playing really well, 64 and 51. Of course, they went all in at the trade deadline. Only 2 games behind the Dodgers in the National League West. Giants, 58 and 57. They have obviously that Devers trade has not worked out the way they thought. Devers for a while was struggling. Offensively, that team as a whole has really struggled. They've been playing good baseball for a while now. They're very mediocre. Arizona 54 and 61 was overmatched. They completely sold off at the deadline because they have so many guys that are going to hit their head in the market. And the Rockies are 30 and 84. That looks bizarre to even look at. They are 54 games under 500. They're 32 and a half games out of a playoff spot on August 8th. And so they got to win 12 more games to not have the worst record ever. They have, let's see if my math's right. They played 114 games, I think. If my wait, let me think. My math is very, very bad. Yeah, they played 114. They got 48 left. So they got to go 12 and 36. They'll probably win more than 41, but they're going to still have probably what, 46 wins or something. That still ends up with what, 116 losses, so they're still one of the worst teams ever. Against teams below 500, they're 11 and 60. The whole core field home field advantage thing is not a thing. They're 16-42 at home. They've been outscored by 316 runs. Their run differential was negative 316. The next worst in the majors is the Washington Nationals, who are at negative 148. That is what? That is almost a 200 run difference, like 170 run difference, something like that. The Rockies are in a category of their own in terms of just putridness. Now for the wild card. American League, Toronto right now leads Detroit by 2 games for the home field advance throughout the whole playoff. Houston is like a game and a half, 2.5 games behind Detroit for a bye in general. Boston is the first wild card spot. Seattle is the second spot. They are a game behind Boston for the first spot. They are a game and a half ahead. The Yankees, who are the last team in. Yankees are the last team in. The game and a half ahead of a second spot. 2.5 games out of the first one. They've been really struggling for a while. Cleveland and Texas are both a game and a half out. Both of them have been playing better lately. Got themselves back into the race. Kansas City is 4 games out. Tampa Bay is 4.5 out, and the Angels are 6 games out. In National League, you got Brewers. Right now they're kind of rolling in the National League. The Dodgers are like 4.5 games behind them, maybe 5.5 behind them first for the home field throughout the whole playoffs. The Phillies are only a half game behind the Dodgers for a first round bye. The Cubs are the first wild card spot right now. San Diego is the second wild card spot. They are 2.5 games behind the Cubs for the first wild card spot. The Mets have plummeted a bit, but they are the last team in right now. The Reds are 3.5 games behind. The Mets are 3.5 games out of the first wild card spot, only a game out of the second wild card spot. Reds are 3.5 games out of that last spot. The Giants are 5 games out. The Cardinals are 5.5 games out. The Marlins are 6.5 games out. So those are your MLB standings as of right now, today, August 8th, as we have this under 2 months to go in the regular season. Boston Celtics make a couple of moves. They trade Georges Niang and 2 second-round picks to Utah for RJ Lewis. I think it's a pretty decent trade. They got Niang in the salary dump trade that sent Kristaps Porzingis to the Atlanta Hawks. Niang's a decent three-point shooter to have off the bench, but that's about all he brings. He was probably going to have to go anyway. Lewis was an undrafted guy by Utah, coming out of St. John's. He's a really good defender, tough player, and needs to be a little more consistent offensively, especially from beyond the three-point line. You saw him how bad he played in that second round playoff game in the tournament. But he's younger than them, the Yang. He probably fits Boston's timeline going forward a little bit more. He brings some toughness and defensive tenacity, and the Yang has brought a little bit of spot-up shooting off the bench. So I think that's a pretty good move. And they also signed Chris Boucher, a veteran minimum, 3.3 million for the year. I think it's a decent move. He's a solid stretch five to have on your bench. Coming 33 years old, averaged 10 points a game last year. Shot 4 down from the field, 36 from 3, 78 from the line. They really needed a big trading away Porzingis. I don't think Luke Cornetto is under contract. Only big year we have is Xavier Tillman, who's been their third string center these last couple of years. There's not a whole lot there at the center position for Boston. They get at least a legit big man that can play starting minutes, possibly. Though he only played 17 minutes a game last year on average for a Toronto Raptors, where he's been for most of his career. He's a guy who can go out there and can play in Boucher. They bring him. I think it's also a decent move by the Boston Celtics. Bad news in the NFL. Rashawn Slater tore his patellar tendon. He's out for the year. He's obviously the left tackle for Los Angeles Chargers, one of the best in all of football. He's an all-pro. Just signed a gigantic $114 million extension, making him the highest paid O-lineman ever. He's gonna be out for the year. That's a huge loss for the Chargers. That I would look to see if somebody's available to take his spot for the year because on the trade market, because that's a huge loss. Part of the reason the Chargers got better last year was because of the offensive line. I'll be drafting Joe Walt last year, giving you Slater and Alt as your tackles. Allowing them to play, Jim Harbaugh's style of football, a lot of, pound the rock, leaning on elite defense, simplifying the game for Justin Herbert, a lot of play action. That could affect you being able to do it if you don't have an all-pro left tackle out there for the whole year, which you're not going to have. That's a big loss for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I'm not sure if this is bad news or not, but ESPN has purchased NFL Red Zone as well as NFL Network. So supposedly there's not going to be any changes to Red Zone. Scott Hanson's still going to host. He just re-signed a 4-year deal to continue hosting Red Zone. So hopefully they don't make any changes. ESPN loves once they get their hands on things, so to make changes, and sometimes they tend to ruin things in today's day and age, but hopefully they keep it the same. Hopefully they don't take away the commercial-free stuff. That's what makes Red Zone Red Zone. This point, NFL Network, which is kind of a dying breed anyway. It doesn't get watched very much. We'll see what happens with that, because NFL Network kind of hasn't been the same in a while. We'll see if any changes happen with that. ESPN also purchased the rights to broadcast WWE's premium live events starting in 2026. So as you know, they have a new like was it direct to consumer package. That's gonna be $30 a month. There was rumor that you have to buy that in order to watch the PLEs. Supposedly, if you're an ESPN subscriber like ESPN Plus or you get it on cable, you will be able to watch the events. Hopefully that still rings true because I don't want to pay $30 a month to watch the events. That's why I love Peacock as a wrestling fan. You can pay whatever it is, $5 or $7 a month. I know Peacock is now their fees are going to be going up soon. Typical. But you pay what? The $7 a month, if that, and you get obviously all the other shows and movies of Peacock. If you're a soccer fan, you get all the MLS games, and you get the wrestling for only $7 a month, whatever it is. But now it's on ESPN, $30 a month is a lot more than $7 a month. So think about it. That's $360 a year. Crazy. Now what makes, WWE so good because like anybody can watch them at any time. I could put on WrestleMania 25 from 16 years ago if I want to right now on Peacock. I pay like $5 a month for Peacock, something like that. I get everything that comes with it. Why would you take that from me? I don't understand. TKO is a complete sellout. I get WWE trying to go mainstream, and good on them for doing that. I don't mind Raw going to Netflix. That was one thing. The PoE thing on Peacock is fine. All these documentaries they're making are fine. But the Unreal documentary, I'm not a fan. I'm not going to be watching. I've seen some clips. I already don't care. But fine, whatever. But do not make your fans pay $30 a month to watch the biggest events in the year because you're going to lose fans. We will lose fans. That is a fact. So let's recap SummerSlam, then we'll recap Raw and NXT. You got SmackDown tonight. SummerSlam was really, really good. Night one, we started off with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso tagging against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. Ray and Jey Uso pick up the win overall. A really good match, really good opener. Roman, he takes a lot of it time off when he is here. He delivers banger after banger after banger. That was a really good match. It was cool they had Jey Uso get the pin in that match. Then you had Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair defeat Judgment Day, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez to win the Women's Tag Team Championships. It was a good match. I know the women's tag division is kind of non-existent right now, but overall it's a good match. I know they had some Bliss and Charlotte, of course, a new team. Whole thing is, we're not friends. We don't work good in the team, but they overcame those and they pick up the win. They're now the women's tag team champions. Sami Zayn defeats Karrion Kross. This match is just kind of okay. Very weird ending to it. The way Kross was kind of looking at Zayn. Of course, there's a lot of rumors with Karrion Kross's contract supposedly be having expired. Expiring this weekend. There's conflicting reports whether or not he's been offered a new deal or not. When it ended, he has Zayn kind of yelling at him and Kross kind of nodding his head at him. It was kind of an odd ending. I hope it's not it for Karrion Kross. He's really hot right now. And Paul Heyman was on the Era Hawaiian show. He commented on him, he compared his rise currently to Steve Austin right now. Hopefully it's honestly a bit of a work to continue the fan support. But that will be a really crappy way just to send him off if this is it for him, but hopefully it's not. Yeah, Tiffany trailing against Jade Cargill. Tiffany retains. This match is just okay. I did think this decision. I know people might think they're building it for Jade, but Jade's simply not ready to be a world champion. Her in-ring chops just really aren't good enough, and she's wrestled a lot of really, really good wrestlers. She's very talented. She's got the look, got the everything, but in-ring wrestling still kind of coming a little slowly. like her WrestleMania match with Naomi was not very good. Her match with Naomi at Night of Champions was a lot better. Like the match with Asuka, she had it at a Queen in the Ring was in the Queen in the Ring tournament was not good. So just at some point, if not even Asuka can get a good match out of her, I don't know who is. So I think it was the right decision for Tiffany to retain. They have Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul winning the tag match against Jericho and Randy Orton. It was actually a pretty good match. Jericho took some serious bumps. Kudos to him for not going over and taking the pin. But Randy and Drew deserved a lot better than that to be working with freaking Jericho at the first ever 2 minutes SummerSlam at MetLife Stadium. But kudos to Jericho for putting in the time, actually looking somewhat okay. And but just I don't need to see him anymore. But the match overall was okay. Then we had CM Punk defeating Gunther to win the World Heavyweight Championship for only 5 minutes. Seth Rollins' an iconic cash in. Tended that he was hurt. What an action job by him. His injury was a work. It was an incredible match between Punk and Gunther. I think the storytelling was really good. Whole thing of like, oh, Gunther is much bigger and stronger and younger than CM Punk. And we beating him down, overpowering him. Then all of a sudden, Punk, cuts Gunther open. Gunther's never bled in the match before. That slowed him down. Punk ends up coming up with the win. And then just an iconic cash from Seth Rollins. So that was done to a T, if you ask me. So happy for Seth Rollins that he is the World Heavyweight Champion. Night 2, we had the Intercontinental Championship. Dominic Mysterio against AJ Styles. Dom wins. First, very creative, taking off his boot and hitting Styles with it while the referee wasn't looking. So Dom retains the IC title, which I'm happy about. He's finally actually wrestling now. A steel cage for the U.S. title was Solo against Fatu. Solo retains in the match. Fatu kind of attacks the MFTs after. That was not a great match. It should have ended way better than it was. I get they're not done with the story, so you have Solo retain, but uh, the way they ended it was just too abrupt for me. Just having Talatanga just randomly come out and smash the cage against Fatu, and then Solo just walks out. Like, come on, you could have finished that match a little bit better. Yeah, the women's world title triple threat between Naomi, Rhea, and Io Sky. That was a really good match. Naomi retains. A very good match. I like the finish. The TLC match was fantastic. Gacy and Loomis of the YSX retain the titles. So many crazy spots in the match. A really good match. Exactly what I thought it would be. That was a fantastic match. The SmackDown Tag Division is incredible. Then Cena and Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes defeats John Cena as Cena's first match as a babyface. Since his heel turn, when he turned face in the SmackDown prior. Cody beats him in absolutely amazing match, one of the best matches I've ever seen from John Cena's career. Obviously, Cena giving Rhodes his flowers after the match. Absolutely incredible. And then Brock Lesnar returns and F5s John Cena. Though, for those of you wondering about the legal stuff of him, he's named in the Vince McMahon lawsuit. He didn't actually do any of the stuff that Vince did. He received some inappropriate text messages from Janelle Grant, but he received them, didn't send them. Vince forced the woman to do that, of course. She's a horrible human being. But he's been cleared. So hopefully that makes people who are a little uneasy about it feel a little bit better. But what a moment. What a shock. What a pop. Brock Lesnar's back. What a SummerSlam. Just incredible event. And then Monday Night Raw was this Monday. We had Becky Lynch and Nikki Bella in a promo, and then Becky just roasting Nikki Bella with the John Cena roast. That was funny. But then she goes backstage and says she wants to have a match with Maxine Dupree. Becky Lynch, that is. So hopefully we get we'll get Nikki Bella and Lynch at some point for the IC title. We had another IC title match for Dom against Dragon Lee. Dom wins the match. Of course, the Grande Americanos came out. Then Dragon Lee saved AJ Styles from being attacked. I don't know what they're doing with the Grande Americano. So dumb. Yeah, Rhea Ripley wishing Io Sky good luck. But Io tried to see if she can get a shot at Naomi for the title. Women's tag team match. Bliss and Charlotte defended against in a rematch against Roxanne Perez or Tara Rodriguez. It was a good match, just kind of didn't care about it. Again, we're kind of past this. Penta against Grayson Waller. Penta wins. Of course, he's trying to get a New Day tag match. I'm not worried what they're doing with Grayson Waller. I think they broke up him in theory off screen. And Sheamus and Rusev ends in a double count out. And they brawled backstage, and now all of a sudden, Rusev against Sami Zayn is coming after Rusev ran has bumped into Sami Zayn backstage. And we're going to have a championship between Rollins and LA Knight. Remember, Rollins was interrupted by LA Knight. His promo was interrupted by LA Knight. Kick off Raw. CM Punk interferes, calls him disqualification. Then Roman came out, but he was decimated by Braun and Bronson. Bronson once again steals his shoes, which is hilarious. And apparently Roman is working Clash of Castles. Maybe we'll get a fatal four-way, but actually really exciting. And NXT this Tuesday. We started off with Blake Monroe against Kalami Jordan. Kalami Jordan wins in a countout. The Jordan Grace chased away Blake Monroe. Remember, she cost Blake Monroe the NXT title match against Jason Jane a couple of weeks ago. So at Heat Wave in 2 weeks, I assume they're going to have a match. Then we had Hank and Tank against Chase U. Of course, Hank and Tank were retained their tag team titles. We had Alexis King against Miles Bourne. That was a pretty solid match. Miles Bourne picks up the win. You had Thea Hall against Nia Jax. It was her first NXT match in years. Nia Jax picks up the win. They end up brawling backstage later in the show. Of course, everyone wants a shot at Obafemi from Trick Williams, who is currently the TNA champion, to Javon Evans, and then Moose, who's a big star in TNA. The Dark State, they tried to attack them, setting up an 8-man tag between Obafemi, Moose, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans against Dark State this upcoming week. And I think we're going to have a triple threat, no more contender match for the Obafemi's NXT title pretty soon. Remember, we got Heat Wave in 2 weeks, August 24th. We had Channing Stacks Lorenzo against Yoshiki Inamura. Stacks picks up the win. Iron Grace and Josh Briggs helped them out. They had Tatum Paxley against Soul Worker in the main event for the NXT Women's North American title. Soul Worker retains. The championship was a very good match. A lot of people wanted Tatum to win, but Ruka does retain. So she's going to be on the main roster soon. She's really good. I like her with Zarya. She's really good. And, obviously, we had another funny segment with Ethan Page and being Santino Morel the previous week. Then Tavion Heights came out. And, of course, we had the Joe Hendry appearance there, which was funny. Him popping out of the fridge was hilarious. That's your wrestling recap. That's all I got for you guys today. Till next time, so long. Have a great day.